Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon. How you doing today? How is everyone? What day is it? Tuesday, July 29th. We're moving. We are moving. We are moving through the tour. Okay? We are getting there. We're getting to the we're getting through. We are getting through this this tour, and obviously we got the whole kind of brief overnight on a bunch of news and things like that. If you did catch my video, if you did catch my video, my vlog that I posted late last night, uh, we had all this. We had all this. We had all this out there. The information here on the striker, on the goalkeeper, on the midfielder, on all of that. We had all this overnight, and of course the other day I was talking about this who I think we're going for at striker and all that, and yeah, well, there were some questions. There were some questions. I think people were saying, is it Jackson? Is it Watkins? And it was Watkins. It was Watkins. Watkins is the guy. Watkins is the name. Watkins is the individual I was referring to um, the other day in that live when I was saying there's someone we've got a plan in mind on someone particular. I think we're gonna go for. And Ollie Watkins was the name, and obviously Ollie Watkins. Prince Ollie Watkins is the one. If you watch the red carpet, I kind of gave that away because I made that argument a little bit. I was taking the side of the Ollie Watkins argument for quite a while, and then the video with KG on his channel. Did he publish that? I don't know if he published that, but we had a video over on KG's channel as well as mine, talking about the striker situation. Yeah, from my side, the name that I got was Watkins. Jackson was really considered at some points here, but the valuations were just too potentially far apart on that deal. So I've got a few things to talk about. I want to talk about the keeper as well. I do. I really want to talk about the keeper situation as well because that is also something we got that I updated. I think Friday evening. You just watched the KG video. Nice. That's something I updated Friday evening on the keeper front. Friday evening, I said if we that a keeper was starting to look a bit less likely, that it probably wasn't imminent, and that realistically we were going to have to move somebody on like Bayindir, but there's not really interest in him in order to get a new keeper in because we would not be buying Emi Martinez while Onana is still here. So we've been on this. We've been on this. We've been on the hunt during this tour to get the info. And the interesting thing is there is an idea for a midfielder as well. There is an idea for a midfielder as well. That one is going to be kind of price dependent. That one is going to be kind of money dependent, sale dependent, and it's certainly not a sure thing. But there's some names in mind, and whether it gets done this summer or next, I think people are going to be very, very, very excited, very, very excited over it, over some of the ideas they have, if they can get them. But anyway, this is the agenda: Watkins, Sesko, goalkeeper situation, midfielder, recruitment, and some yap. I've got about an hour, and then I've got to get to yet another event, and then we'll see what the hell the day holds because it's so impossible to predict. I've got one more day out here. Yeah, I've got one more day out here after this fully, and then heading back. So today, tomorrow, the game, all of that. Yes. So, Watkins versus Benjamin Sesko. Now, obviously, the striker. Let me just hold on. Let's get to everything. All right. So, yes, Ollie Watkins versus Benjamin Sheshko. I'm gonna need a vacation after my vacation. Yes, I really. I'm good. I got sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night, but to do a couple things, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm okay. I got plenty of. I caught up plenty, so I'm good on sleep. It's just busy, man. It's just busy. Um, Harrison. 1 second, just pulling stuff up. Do I miss my family? I do. I do miss my family. There's no doubt about it. I miss my family. I haven't been away from them that much in quite a long time. Quite a long time. All right. Yes. Sorry. When I do it on while I'm traveling like this, I'm not. I don't have like all my monitors. I usually have a couple monitors, and it's easier for me to like organize all my tabs and things like that to do it easier to figure this stuff all out. But all right, let's get into it. Let's get into it because that's what I want to. That's what I really want to. I really want to get into this Sheshko versus Watkins business. So, um, right. Let's look at some of the numbers for Sheshko versus Watkins. As they were right now. Look at some of the information, and then we'll get right into it. So this is Ollie Watkins versus Benjamin Sheshko by the numbers. When you take a look at this, 2,380 minutes, 25.98. You're talking about the Bundesliga versus the Premier League as well, mind you. 18 goals and assists versus 24 goals and assists. Not bad for somebody who's supposedly on the decline. 2 penalties for each. One of the things that to me can be a red flag, okay, on Sheshko. It's one of the reasons I don't really rate him that highly is kind of essentially this right here. When you look at his non-penalty XG, are these the options
you've been alluding to?
Yes, sir. When you look at his non-penalty XG, for a striker, Sesko does not accumulate a lot of XG, and he never really has. If you watch him play and you watch his goals back, he doesn't score a lot of striker goals. I don't know how I would put it. He scores a lot of great goals outside the box, kind of just launches, but he's not really the guy who's going to be scoring a lot of the same goals. Like get in the box, get to this spot, get the cross, score goals. It's a lot of it's fairly random, and he has a great power in his shot, but he doesn't really push for like I don't know. He doesn't accumulate a ton. He just doesn't, and I do think that's he doesn't get those messy striker goals. He doesn't get those hot tons of lots and lots of high XG chances that you kind of want out of a striker. For me, if you're doing that in the Premier League, that's one thing. You're getting a lot of these. You're able to score a lot of big goals. Cunha, for example, scores a lot of goals from outside the box on long shots and things like that. But If you're doing it in the Bundesliga, that worries me a bit more. That's my main concern.
I think most think we should prioritize Watkins. But, if interested in Sesko, I want to see the club and fans trust him. If we don't listen to him, what's the point?
Well, you could argue if you don't listen to Wilcox, if you don't listen to the other people who might be prioritizing Watkins, what's the point either? People are going to have different opinions. You don't just blindly trust one guy. You know, everybody has to be certain of something. Everybody has to be certain of something. I would not say trust Vivell over others in the same way. It's like that's not how it works. I think I don't want to get into like a this person versus that person versus this person versus that person type of thing on this, because it's not really how things should work. That's not really how things should work in this type of recruitment. Vivell's not the head guy. Wilcox is his boss. That's not how it works. You know, to me, it's more like they have to be fully in alignment on what is happening. Is there potentially? Of course, you take someone's opinion into account, but it's not trust X over Z or Y over A. You know, it just doesn't work that way. That's people have done this all the time, just like they doing during the whole Mbumo saga, just like during every single like transfer saga of any kind. People are making it into a thing, making massive fucking assumptions about what people think, who does this, who thinks that, and most of the time it's just not even true. It doesn't really work that way. Hello, Tubby. Good to see you, buddy. You know, it's like it doesn't really work that way. It's just a matter of what the group, Omar, Wilcox, Ruben Amorim, and Vivell all come together on the best options and what is the best price, what is the best value for money, how risk averse can they be, how risk taking can they be, and all of those types of things that go into it. When you look at the player perspective, on here, obviously Vivell will have more direct information, right? He will have more direct info, so he'll be providing more of, you know, his take on the background of the player to why he would be an option. That doesn't make it the X versus, you know, this person versus that person type of thing. That's not really how it works. But anyway, that's my main concern, is that I just don't. 13 goals in the Bundesliga is not impressive, and it's not just me saying that. And when you go look at the article by Laurie, he said this on a couple of occasions. I think it's right here. It just says Vivell is a history, right? But Sesko's tally of 13 goals in 33 Bundesliga games this season is judged by some as falling short of the numbers required for the kind of fee it would take to get him, right? That's essentially the issue here. That's essentially the issue here. This is what it comes down to when we look at the numbers on this. Sesko's a good player. Watkins is a better player today. Yeah, Sesko played lone strike. He played alongside Openda. Yeah, for sure. I know. There's concerns with some people at United about Sesko. Ratcliffe preferring Sesko is just, when people say Ratcliffe prefers XYZ, just write it off.
Isaac Gold's record at Real Sociedad wasn't great either before moving to the Prem. Sesko can improve as well.
He can, but for every striker that does an Isak, there's 20 that don't. You know, it's really, I don't know. It's not really the case. He can. Of course he can. It's not like there's no chance he can improve. But of course, you know, he's got to Here, I can add some criteria here, and let's take a look at Ekitike and add him to this. By the way, that's curious. I want to see that. We were in for Ekitike. Oh shit! Sorry, it did his whole career. Let's look at him at Frankfurt. But it's still a lot better. 23 goals and assists. I mean, it's not miles better in terms of numbers of goals, but look here. This is the difference. This is what I'm talking about as well. At the very least, I have my doubts on Ekitike at that price, but at the very least, when you look at Ekitike, he accumulates goals. He accumulates expected goals at an extremely high level. That's probably why he's rated so highly. He gets where he needs to be in terms of goals, you know. He gets where he needs to be in terms of goals. So that's an important part of probably why Ekitike was rated. Accumulating 19 expected goals is pretty massive. That is a lot of goals. And the downside with Ekitike was amusingly, of course, that his finishing wasn't necessarily tops, but that's almost 2.5 times the amount of accumulated non-penalty expected goals for Ekitike, right? So yeah, not particularly similar in the slightest. He's a guy who gets to the box, gets to the goal scoring areas at a much better rate, which is one of those things you look for is guys who can actually accumulate expected goals. So that's, I believe, why Ekitike was rated so highly. By so many. He underperformed it, of course, but he was the guy getting to the place where he wants to be. I mean, you look at the other stuff, Ekitike is also a better passer of the ball, higher expected assists, higher practically everything. You know what I mean? Like, he did 44 key passes compared to 19. Everything Ekitike did in his team was better than Benjamin Sesko. So Ekitike being rated higher makes sense because his all-around game is better. His all-around game is certainly a lot better than Benjamin Sesko. Benjamin Sesko's all-around game isn't very good. Leipzig as a team were really underperforming, but Sesko's playing in that team. Like the point being, of course, he could get better. He could become a good striker. He's got really good tools, but it's an assumption that he's gonna perform. Like, you can take all the excuses you want. It's like you could look at Rasmus and say, well, Rasmus's stats are bad because United are bad. Well, you don't know that unless if you watch it on, you like, that doesn't necessarily mean that. Like, that, it doesn't really work that way. You've got to look at what a player is producing, what they are doing, not get in your head, well, they're only doing, because that's like assuming every player that's underperforming is only underperforming because their team is bad. That's not true. There's plenty of players in bad teams that are putting up big numbers. There's loads of them, So, that doesn't really work that way either. Ekitike performed really well. I still think he's overpriced, but obviously to the idea that United couldn't compete with that. When you look here, I mean, yeah, it's better. But then you're saying that he got worse in one season. He got significantly worse in one season. I don't know. You also, again, you look at this, his dual winning rate's very low every season. His expected. He's not as complete a player as any of these other options. That's just the reality of it. He's just not. It's a gamble. It's a gamble. Should I poll it? Yeah, I can poll it. Let's go. Your preference. Let's see it. Let's see it. I'm curious to what people think about this. I've made my position on it clear from an opinion standpoint. I'm just not. I'm very risk averse at this point in time on a striker signing. I don't want to take any risks. I've been against a young striker the whole summer. I'm not changing my opinion on that now. I'm not changing my opinion on that like at all. Because I've made my stance clear on that. I don't think getting a 13-goal striker from the Bundesliga is the answer today. I think that what we need is somebody who's going to make a very, very certain impact, make less of a gamble on this. The midfielder, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really make a difference. Price shouldn't make a difference too. I don't give a fuck about the price, to be quite honest. What I look at today, here's the reality of the situation today. All right. I said this in last night's live. Or last night's video that I posted. I don't care about the money. That's meaningless to me. The money is nothing. If United are winning games, if United are back in Europe, we have plenty of money. But I think they will, Jason. He's their preferred option. Jason, he's their preferred option. He's their preferred option. I don't know. I think people are ignoring that. That was reported by a good 4 or 5 people last night, by the way. Watkins is the preferred option. That's in the reports. So he is preferred. I think they'd be happy to pay for him. Actually, I don't think that's the issue at all. United like him the most. Watkins is the preferred option right this second. Okay, Watkins is the preferred option right this second. That's the truth. That's the reality. I'm certain of that. They wanted Ollie Watkins in. He would be the guy that they would get. It does not for sale doesn't mean anything, Hamza. It doesn't mean shit. You can look at the articles about that. They say he's not for sale, but they're going to test that and put a bid in. They're going to test that and put a bid in. Villa privately insists Watkins is not for sale, but there's a belief at Old Trafford that a deal can be done. They look to find an agreement, 40 to 45 million. I've heard that number since Saturday, and not for sale doesn't mean not for sale. Not for sale means different things. Everyone is not for sale when they don't want to sell. Isak was not for sale, and now he's for sale. And now Newcastle are looking at different people. Luis Diaz was not for sale. Now he's in Germany. Not for sale doesn't mean anything. Not for sale doesn't mean shit. It just means you have to put a bid in, and the player has to say he wants to leave. Wissa was probably not for sale after Mbumo. Now he's holding out, and he's not even training. We've seen time and time again players that are not for sale ask to leave and then be sold. That's what happens, It's so we'll see what happens with it. He is the preferred option. He is the preferred option, but we need the money. We would very likely need him to push for this move. Frankly, in a similar way that we needed Mbumo to push for his move in order to nail down a fee. So, he's, it's just, it is what it is. We'll see what happens with it. We'll see what happens with it. All right, there's your poll. 65% Watkins, 35% Sesko. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you for liking the video and all of that. Thank you, and please do like the video. Almost 1,000 people here, about 100 likes. Let's get some more of those. Buy Watkins, keep Rasmus. We don't need another prospective striker for sure. Yes, I agree. I agree. I agree with that very much. Very much, I agree with that. But look, the reality is, information-wise, United do prefer Ollie Watkins. That's been reported by a number of people. They prefer Ollie Watkins. They're very likely going to test a bid for they're very likely going to test them, you know? That's what they're going to do. They're very likely going to test them and see about this not for sale issue. See what kind of price that they would expect to do. See what kind of deal can be done there. Benjamin Sesko is going to be significantly more expensive. We're never selling anybody for a profit, Derek. We're just never selling anybody for more profit. But there's two issues for me. There's two things. Number one, this is the reason why I would say that the preference is for Ollie Watkins. In general, again, I'm not going to make it a this person versus that person bullshit thing because I don't like that. It's not a divide. It's more like which one has maybe more support behind him than the other one? Because they wouldn't be looking at Sesko if Wilcox didn't like him. They wouldn't be looking at Sesko at all if Amram didn't like him. They wouldn't be looking at him at all if Omar didn't like him. Okay, so it's not like a conflict. That's not how these things work. However, however, at the same time, who has more support and why? Right now, United need to get back into Europe. The money is somewhat meaningless. If United can get back into Europe, if United can get back into Europa League or above, the money is there. The money is there for anybody. The money is there for whatever we need to do. The money is there. Okay? So the priority is to get back in there. The only reason we can't compete today is because we're not in Europe. I seen a report yesterday saying Al Nassr might make a bid for Dallo. Any truth to that? Maybe. Ronaldo really likes him, but he's not going anywhere right now. Okay. So we need to get back into Europe. I had conversations yesterday, and it was again confirmed to me this whole point. United do have some money to spend right now. At the price they're talking about with Watkins, we don't even have to sell to get him necessarily. We don't have to sell players to buy him. Did you notice that? I said we might have some money to do something. Do you notice that in the pieces? We don't necessarily have to sell to buy. We won't necessarily have to sell to buy Ollie Watkins. So it might be something we can do a little bit sooner. It might be something we can do a little bit more possibly. But the reality is that we need a calculated EPL-proven striker to get us in the Champions League and push on. Age, sell, and value are useless if the signing fails. Like say, correct. Sell on, all of that. None of that means anything. We need to get back into Europe. That's priority number one. If we can get back into Europe, then we have money. Then we can compete with the big boys again. Okay? Then we can do what we need to again. All right? Then we can do so much with this team. The what was it? Shit. Right. What was confirmed to me about it is that one, the cuts that they've made were necessary that allowed us to spend what we're able to spend right now. Okay? That carries forward into the future where we've got spending under control now to where we can spend like we have and we can get there. The only thing we have to do is get back into Europe. That's priority number one. If we get back into Europe, that's it. Right? That's it. That's the number one thing. You know, yeah, I do think it's kind of funny. Like you say, people said, Hoyland, you buy a young player, he'll retain his value. Now we can't move him at all. But anyway, Sanchez, I think, is a different story as a player. We also paid him 500,000 a week. You realize that? We paid 500,000 a week for Sanchez. Like, I think people, when they try to compare Sanchez to signings like this, Sanchez, we paid 500,000 a week. Okay, Ollie Watkins, in a couple of years, if he becomes a backup, so what? We're not going to pay him 500,000 a week. We're not going to pay him 350,000 a week. We're not going to pay him 250,000 a week. We're going to pay a reasonable number. Sanchez was on absolutely mental wages, out of fucking control wages that just sunk the club. It was like the worst deal we've ever done from that perspective. It was insane the amount of money he was being paid. It was like Ronaldo level. It was a complete moment of madness at the club, and that was crazy. But yeah, look, priority number one on this is and he still wanted to leave. Yeah, priority number one on this is we need to get back into Europe. If we get back into Europe, we're good. So on that front, that's why there's a preference towards Watkins. It's a more sure thing to help get us back into Europe. A more impactful player. You look at the quotes from Ruben Amorim, he's talked about getting proven players who make an impact now, but also number two is players that you know are going to fit into the new culture. The players who are going to fit into the culture, who are going to help the locker room, who are going to help the dressing room, I should say, who are going to help the environment, who are going to do all of that. We need that as well. And on those things, Watkins is a more sure thing. That's the evaluation, that Watkins, a better potential fit in the dressing room, likely to hit the ground running, likely to make a bigger impact right off of the bat, less risk involved. Even at 60 million pounds, there's less risk involved. Okay. So I believe that there's more support for him. Sesko, viewed as a very, very good young player with very big potential, who has very solid physical tools, but there's an obvious risk involved. And the cost is potentially 69 to 78 million pounds. Why I have my doubts that we will do it is really simple. When I've asked about it, the answer was we'd have to be totally sure he's the right guy. I'm not getting the impression they're totally sure he's the right guy at that kind of money. And from the articles I read, a lot of people seem to have heard the same doubts. Like I said, when I hear that thing from Laurie, this is why I have this opinion. This is why I have this opinion. Okay, it's just my opinion. Jason, thank you for gifting as usual all of that. Hold on one second. Where was this? Let me find this thing, because Laurie has said this on a couple of occasions, and I listen to things that people who are very, very well connected say. And I look at it and I go, okay, this right here. If there are doubts, then I don't think we pay up to 78 million pounds for a player, because they're not going to take risks if there are doubts. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That's why I'm saying probably not. Okay, but like I said, they're on the table. They have to evaluate this. I don't think they rate Sesko at that kind of money. If they had a situation where Sesko is saying United only, because Newcastle are there, Newcastle can make a bid, Newcastle can pay the money, Newcastle will have more once a bid comes in for Isak, then If he was to say, I'm United only, and that price could come down, then that would change things on the argument. That would move things, where you go like, okay, well, if that price starts to come down, then it starts to make sense, right? But yeah, 69 to 78 million pounds is a lot of money. You have to be 100% sure on that. Do you think they're letting this rumor run to show Aston Villa that we have other options? I think that I don't think that it's necessarily that simple. I think that they are interested in Sesko. It doesn't hurt having alternatives. But the third kind of red flag that I have on this deal in general is if he was so highly rated, why didn't we go for him until now? Why didn't we go for him earlier in the window? Why didn't we pursue him prior? At that amount of money, if he's rated that high, if we rated him at a price where he's worth 70 million pounds, why didn't we do it earlier? Why are we just getting these links now? Why are we just following up on this interest today? Why did we go for Delap, Gyökeres, Jackson, Watkins, and everybody else beforehand? That's a lot because it's too much money. That's why. Ekitike as well, because it's too much money. That's the reason. It's just that simple. They don't rate him at that price. I couldn't say that for Watkins. They went for Watkins in the beginning of the window. They had discussions with Watkins and Aston Villa at the start of the window. They've had discussions with Watkins since the beginning. So yeah, they didn't even approach on Sesko. So the price is still quite high. They thought he was going to Arsenal, but Arsenal were going for Gyökeres. We tried that too. So we clearly rated Gyökeres higher as well. Delap, Gyökeres, Ekitike, Watkins. Watkins is definitely the preference at the moment, but Sesko is there. I think the price is probably going to have to come down, and then we'll see what happens. So this is the riskier financial prospect. I personally think it's too big a risk. If we sign him, of course, I'm 100% going to back him. I always back every player we sign, whether I wanted them or not, and make sure that they have, in that first season especially, that I lay off of them. I didn't even criticize Anthony in his first season. I thought that was one of the worst signings we ever made. So at the time, and I backed him in that first season. So I have my doubts. That I've shared. I'm consistent in my opinions on young prospect strikers. I don't think it's the right time for them. I don't think it's the right time for him, but I will. Of course, I'll back him if we sign him. I still think that's more likely to be Watkins as of today, but let's see what happens. Let's move on to the goalkeeper situation. Goalkeeper situation is rather interesting. So Friday, yeah, Craig, but that's the thing, right? They're able to get Isak, and they have a bunch of good players already. They have a very settled team. They have a very settled dressing room. They have a very established side that they can take some risks. So it's different. If you can take risks, you take risks. If you can't take risks, there's teams that can take more risks and there's teams that can't. So in my video last night, I said that a goalkeeper is less likely now to happen. Striker, number 6, goalkeeper, main things wanted, and a goalkeeper is not likely to happen right now, unfortunately. On Friday, when I got in, the first video I did on that time, or the first live I did, whatever it was on that time, I said that unfortunately it was looking like a goalkeeper is becoming less likely. I said that we made that loan offer for Emi Martinez because we would be maybe willing to have him on loan, but we're not willing to buy him while Onana is here, and Onana is not going anywhere this summer. So that's very unlikely to be the case. We needed Bayindir to leave. That's what I was told. That's what I shared on Friday, and as of yesterday, it was even less likely a goalkeeper because there's not really been interest in Bayindir at this point in time. So there's just not space for a goalkeeper. It's looking unlikely that we will get a goalkeeper right now as of today. It's definitely dropped down. it's definitely dropped down on the list of likelihood of signings. We get further on. We still have 1 month left. James, based on your vlog yesterday, I read between the lines on the potential brilliant plan. We're getting Baliba. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if we're getting Baliba, but we'll see. So yeah, a goalkeeper is now unfortunately unlikely. Still a month left. If something comes in for Bayindir, the club are willing to move on that. They are willing to sell, and they are willing to go buy another player at goalkeeper. They are, but right now it is less likely, unfortunately. So it's kind of like on hold. Lamens is liked. Lamens is admired, but they've got to sell someone to bring space, to bring a keeper in with Lamens. I think, unfortunately, I think the feeling is like Lamens is maybe the idea here is that Lamens is not someone they think is immediately going to be better. I disagree, but there are people who really think Onana is going to do a lot better. This is one where this is probably my biggest doubt of anything I hear, because I back and I support and I understand about 90% of what is being done this summer. About what Amarim thinks, about what Ineos think, about what Wilcox and co think, about what the whole team thinks, and they're all in alignment on. I'm in about 90% in support of them. The 10% I think that they're being naive on is the goalkeeper. I have so little faith in Andre, but I said at the start, there are people who really like him, and Amarim quite likes him. I'm not gonna do some nasty thing on this. Okay. I hope they're right. I really do. I don't have confidence in it. I hope they're right. We'll find out pretty soon into the season. You know, I get certain aspects. Season 1 in the league, Onana was actually really, really good. But Amram likes it. He does like his character, but he also thinks he can turn it around. And he doesn't need something crazy from his keeper. He just needs them to be solid. So if their assessment is that Lamens isn't going to improve immediately if he comes to the Premier League, who am I to argue with that? Maybe that's just the assessment. Could a loan plus obligation be possible for Lamens? I don't think he'd be available on loan. But yeah, I don't know. I've got my doubts on this. This is the one decision I have more doubts on than anything else, is the goalkeeper situation. I think it should have been the first thing done this window alongside a striker. 100%. I think it should be the first one. Balaba in 21 and 25, 26. That's right. That's a good plan. Amen. So let's talk about the midfielder now that we're there. Let's talk about the midfielder now that we are there. James, if the only option is Sesko, then would you prefer we try Xerxes in the 10 or take a chance with signing Sesko? I don't want to sign Sesko personally. I just don't. I think the reason I say that is this. If we sign Sesko at 70 to 78 million, and we don't get into Europe, we're screwed next summer. We spent our Casemiro money. Then we're in trouble. Then we can't make the big moves we need to make, and we got to pray someone is buying Højlund after another bad season or something, or what have you, you know. It could sink us. I think it's too big a risk to take. I just wouldn't even do it. I'd rather throw the money at Wissa. Throw 40 million at Wissa. Force the issue. I'd rather play Xerxes. Yeah, I think I got you meant Xerxes. I'd rather play Xerxes. I'd rather throw the money at somebody else. Throw some money at some older player and just get through the season. Don't take that risk. I just don't. Hey, Academy Arena, how you doing, buddy? Hope you keep it up. I've been trying to keep up despite everything going on. I can't say that I've been totally up to date, but I appreciate that you've been doing that while this is all going on. No, Laurie says 69 to 78 million pounds. There are journalists that I pretty much trust explicitly, and Laurie Whitwell is one of them, okay? And I have good reason to believe that. That he's a person to trust. So whatever number Laurie is giving, I'm going with that. Either way, okay? That's just it. That's what I do. But yeah, anyways, I'd rather we go for someone else entirely. I don't think we can take that risk. I think it could be a serious problem. I think I'd rather get somebody affordable that can just do the job. Nothing crazy. That's all. Missed the whole striker video. Apparently, Amarim prefers Watkins without pushing for Sesko. Any truth to that? I would say it's not like it's not like a versus thing, Jason. It's like it's more like I think Amarim would probably have more support for Watkins than Sesko. Like, oh, I like Sesko. Oh, I like Watkins. Who do you like more? I like Watkins. Oh, I like Chinese food. Oh, I like Indian food. What do you like more? I like Indian food a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's like it's not a versus thing. It's like there's probably a little more support behind Watkins from the group than there is behind Sesko based on the present situation and price points all factored in. Now that Rashford is removed from the dressing room, do you and Phil have other insider dressing room contacts? I never had Rashford as an inside the dressing room contact, so not an issue for me, not a problem. Never was never like that. How many times do we have to say get through the season? We haven't had a proper striker since RVP. That's true. That's true as well, Jason. If Sesko doesn't work, we still don't have a proper striker. And to be fair, we signed RVP like at Watkins' age, right? So I think Watkins is a better comparison to RVP in that respect to Van Persie. A Premier League proven player from another club, bring him in, and they can lead the line. But yes, thank you all for the donation. So midfielder. So anyway, like I said, I'd rather do nothing than take a big risk and be in a situation where we're kind of screwed on the finances. Zlatan, Lukaku, etc. You can't compare RVP with Watkins, but you can scenario wise. It's like when I say Sporting, the experience that Ruben Amorim had at Sporting and United. I'm not comparing the clubs, I'm comparing the situations. Like Van Persie's better. He carried us to a league title. Watkins isn't as good. I'm asking him to carry us into the Europa League. So yes, the standard is lower. What we're trying to aim for is lower, but the situation is similar. If Watkins is the Europa League RVP, I'm happy with it. You hear me? Like, that's my point in the comparison. If Watkins is the Europa League Van Persie, I'm here for it. You see what I'm saying? That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Thank you for the donation of gifted ones, Joel Mashergi. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. For the memberships and all of that. Yeah. So that's how I see it. They're different. Van Persie was a title-winning striker. I'm asking Watkins to be a Europa striker. That's all. In terms of the situations of what they've done, bringing in a proven player from the Premier League to help you get better in the league and get somewhere that season. The levels are different. We're starting lower, we're aiming lower. That's okay. Reset my super chat again. We need to go for proven quality striker and get into Champions League. Age, sell-on value means nothing if an expensive buyer, high package player flops like Sanchez or Sancho. Exactly. I agree. That's why I'm saying get someone kind of proven and get in there. And see what they can do. So that's the matter. So on the midfield, so that means that of the three main priorities, if a goalkeeper is less likely, yes, a midfielder is still something United are looking at, and it is more of a deeper defensive type of midfielder who's athletic, who can get around, who can do all of that, who runs, who moves, who does everything. That's what they're looking for. They've got some ideas in mind. I think that some of the ideas in mind are going to be practically impossible to pull off right now, but you never know. Again, I think they've got the right ideas here. Some of it depends on the striker. If we get a good deal for a striker and we get some sales, there will be money for a midfielder. Maybe even significant money for a midfielder. We'll see. And I think, again, they'd like to get somebody, good in there. in the long term, you know, I don't. If there's somebody, who they can, you know, because we may not have the money, we certainly may not be able to get the top like top idealized midfielder this summer, just because of the cost and because of the potential that he just may not be for sale. But an athletic deep six, did I hear you say Baluba? I mean, he fits the bill, right? That may not be possible this summer. Maybe that's for next summer. But if not, it's becoming more possible they could sign a midfielder that is probably more affordable, more like good coverage in that six, another athletic mover. You know, because we only have the one in Ugarte at this point in time, a deeper midfielder who defends and who's athletic and all of that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on this. But there is, we don't really have a ton of names. That I still don't have a bunch of names on the midfield. I still don't, unfortunately. All I know is that it's becoming more possible that we make a move for somebody here. I don't have a bunch of names to give you. You know, Ederson was one that we were interested in. Too expensive, I think now impossible, and now maybe is not exactly the type of midfielder we want. When we were looking at Delap and Cunha and Bruno was going to play up front, I think Ederson made a lot of sense, adding another energetic midfielder, but he's probably not the guy to play with Bruno. So I think he's probably not the option now, even though they've really liked him. So we don't have names, but it is becoming more possible that we get a midfielder alongside a striker rather than a goalkeeper. We might. What I heard yesterday is we're just not getting everything done this summer, and that's just not going to happen. That's fine. But it's certainly a midfielder is becoming more possible. I don't know the names. I mean, I have some ideas in the long term who their top targets are, and they're amazing. If everything went really well, could they pull it off this summer? Maybe. Do I think they will? No, because I think it's just too hard. But so obviously in the shin kicker progressor type 6, I would lean towards shin kicker. You know, meaning priority wise, someone who's athletic, someone who's a good defender, someone who gets around more than like a Zubamendi. You know, we could have got Richard Rios, but if they rated him, I don't think Richard Rios was I just don't think he was rated by that many people, to be quite honest. But yeah, so it's an intriguing one. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't be good. Like the top targets, the guys that are maybe out of reach, maybe next summer projects, they're not just shin kickers. They can be fantastic on the ball too. So that's important. But yeah. So we'll see what happens here, guys. But a midfielder is definitely becoming more plausible, more possible. Moving on to, you know, it's a general sense on recruitment. One of the things that I covered in my video over the morning and that I wanted to talk about is a huge part of the recruitment now is data driven, and it's been what does really well mean? What do you mean? What did I say? What do you mean, Rana? Type a normal message, Rana, so I can understand the full sentence. I'll read it out. Thank you for the donation. Type a full message out. Recruitment. Choo choo. Recruitment is a huge drive over the last 12 months to be data driven, to get people in who, you know, to make the team smaller and focus on utilizing more the data to target and reach the people that they want to properly evaluate names and to end up with the right lists of people that they're trying to to get to. And so, you know, that's been a huge push, you know, to look at it and say, Blink twice if you heard. Our midfielders for 26-7 to be Balaba, Wharton, and Mainu. Watch Benfica sell Richard Rios for 70. Maybe they will. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player, but I don't know if how much people rate him like that. Nick Pope could emerge as a target for Manchester United of Newcastle. I don't think the target is the problem unless we can take a player on loan. I don't think the target is the problem, and unless we can take Nick Pope on loan. Unless we can take Nick Pope on loan, then I don't think that's really the issue. He could be a target, though. He could be a target. Can we take him on loan? We'll see. Anyway, but hurt my eyes, drying out my contacts. But yes, again, on the recruitment front, big drive to things being data driven, a big drive towards utilizing the the data to properly identify targets. You still have to scout players. You still have to look at players. You still have to assess players. You still have to go see them. There's no doubt about that. But being able to use the data to properly identify within the team, what are we missing? What are all the traits? What are the profiles? What is everything that United is missing? And then take that and say, okay, what can we get instead? Where can we find those traits? And then go and look at those players and find them. Go and look at those guys and find them. Go and bring those people in. That's what they're looking for. That's what they want to do. They haven't been using data very well in that respect, and that's been a huge push over the last year. Find them on the data, then go look at them, then do character assessments and all the things like that. Yeah, why is it that Ineos must like and sign the players the fans and the fan channels like? James said in a video the other night, Ineos don't care what peeps think. Correct. That's the other thing. They don't give a damn what fans think about these types of things, and they're not supposed to. I think they're not going to be influenced by fans. But yeah, look, I just wanted to bring this up on the recruitment, that this was a huge thing stressed to me, that the data side of recruitment is a big push being made. Having fewer scouts doesn't mean looking at fewer players. It's just different. It's like there's no number of scouts United can have that are going to make us, watch that are going to make us unearth talents nobody else is, because you're competing with hundreds and hundreds of squads and agents and people out there and scouts out there and everything. You said a few times if things go really well. I'm wondering what it looks like from the club perspective. Is that everyone on their list out, and how likely is that? Thank you for the question, Rena. I mean, like getting lots of sales, because if we buy a striker in a 50-60 million bracket, we could probably do that, but then we do need to sell 50, probably 40-50 million plus to get out there. But yeah, but yes, the data is huge on recruitment now and needs to be picked up. Yeah, how you interpret it is different, how you use it is different, how you analyze it is different. All of that matters. All right, guys. I meant to yap, but I yapped a lot on the striker situation. I've got to get going because I've got to get to something at 10 o'clock local time. That's 45 minutes from now. I've got to catch an Uber to get over there. Got to go downstairs and get an Uber over there so I don't miss it. I'll get some footage and video over there. So that's what we've got. That's where I'm at with this video. The Watkins and Sesko situation is an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Yeah, correct. It was a mistake what they did, and they don't want to do that anymore. So, and there's a lot more people here now than there were before to insulate. It was like just Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford and all that. But anyway, yes, I got to get going. Striker situation, certainly one to watch. I'm still leaning towards Watkins as of today, but let's see what moves happen in the next few days. Midfielder becoming more possible, goalkeeper less possible. It's shifting. It wasn't like that a week ago, so it's likely to adjust even more in the future. But we'll see, and I'll be back. I'll see if I have time to do another live or something today, but certainly we'll have some more videos or content either way. All right, have a good one, everyone. See you later. Enjoy your day. Make sure to like the stream on the way out, please. Thank you very much. Like the stream on the way out. Thank you. Subscribe. Watch the other video. Watch the debates with KG on my channel and his about Sesko versus Watkins, about Amorim in, Amorim out.